Hello and welcome to Kickstarter Talk. This is Kickstarter Talk for week 24 of 2017. We are going to go through a bunch of Kickstarters today. Basically, what we do every week, for those who are new to the program, is I am Mr. Andersin, and I run through all the Kickstarters that are available for you guys to back. And we're going to go through them first in a list format, which means basically we just read off all the Kickstarters that are available in a list form that we have on our site. And then from there, what we'll do is we'll go through each one individually and talk about each one in a bigger, more complex detail. Christopher Works is with us, great creator himself. He helps create props and stuff. He's actually in the chat room. Mark is with us on video. Let me see if I can get Mark to say hi to us. I had him on mute for a second because he was typing. How you doing, Mark? What's going on? He's actually a creator himself. We're going to be going over his project in a minute. So how you doing, Mark? All right, so we're going to get back with Mark when we go over his project. And for now, we're just going to go ahead and start with the list. Let's get to it. Here we go. These are the Kickstarters you are seeing. And here is a list where you can make a difference. So this list is all about the Kickstarters we think you should be backing. We always start off with the Kickstarter of the week. Our pick, the one that we think you should be backing. This week, we're going with Tommy. Tommy is a very creative story that is based upon an imaginary bunny. And during the entire time, it's a dark comedy about if your imaginary friend, who is a bunny rabbit, was encouraging you to do evil things and what that would mean. Now, the way that this is done is in a very comedic and horrific fashion in itself. It's very creative. It's very impressive. It's something that I think that many of you are missing out on if you haven't already gotten it. I've gotten to meet the creators myself at the events of Tampa, and I believe New York Comic Con. I ran into them too, and I believe I ran into John, or not John. I think it was Juan. One of the two creators I met at a smaller con, PalmCon. Great guys. It was Juan. I met Juan there. Great guys. Fantastic human beings, great creators, funny as hell. That's why this is our pick of the week for this week. And we really do hope you take the opportunity to check it out and become a fan of their work, because I guarantee you're going to like what you see. And I know that's the Men's Warehouse slogan, and I didn't mean it that way, but it is true. You are going to like what you see. All right, moving on real quick. We're going to go on to this crossover, this amazing Kickstarter crossover. We actually featured this as our pick of the week last week. It's the Untold crossing over with Angelica Reigns. It's a Kickstarter crossover swag event. Basically, if you back both of these projects, both are fantastic projects, by the way. Nick Allen has joined us in the chat room. He said Juan and John are great guys. I completely agree, Nick. Back to this, where this is the Untold and Angelica Reigns. You actually get this art. This art here is going to be sent to you. How fantastic is that? How great is that? You have just great artists coming together on both projects. We're going to get to talk about that in a minute. But just look at the cool swag that you have the opportunity of getting by backing both projects. You're being rewarded for rewarding yourself, basically. Because not only will you get two great comic books, but you're going to get also this art. How could you go wrong with that? The answer is you can't. All right, support R4 and the Autistic Jedi with this patch to show your support. We are hoping to have this patch at the Written Sins table very soon. Basically, how that's going to work is that we're going to be buying the patches, having them shipped to us, and we're not going to make any profit on it. We're only going to keep what we spent to get it at our table. Not table cost, nothing like that. Literally what it cost us per patch to have it. And once it's there, John is with us now, one of the creators of Tommy. He's just joined us. Great creator. I mean, he's our pick of the week for a good reason. Funny guy. If you're not a fan of him, you really should fan him on Facebook and support the project, which we're going to go over in great detail in a few minutes. But the Support the R4 campaign is also about bringing autism awareness, and I think that that's very important in our generation. Whether we like it or not, autism's not going anywhere. And with that in mind, that's why Written Sins wants it at our table to help raise funds for autism awareness. We had some flyer handouts and people absolutely loved it. They actually wanted the patch I had. So I reached out to Melissa and I asked her, would it be okay if we had it at our table? She said, yeah. So now we're going to be able to offer people and help build awareness at our table. How great is that? Far out space adventures inside the head of Higginbotham, baby. Interdimensional mysteries starring weirdo freakmeisters. This is Galaxy Freaks Time Songs Issue 2. We had watched the video last week. I mean, I said it and I'll say it again. This is, hi John. This is definitely something you want to be stoned to have. I know it only if you're in the states that it's legal. I know there's a couple states. If it's in a state where it's not legal, don't do drugs. It's bad. It's horrible. But if you're in a state where it's legal to do drugs, this is definitely something you want to get stoned and read. Just saying, from what I've seen, this looks like, I mean, I remember I got stoned for Alice in Wonderland, and it completely changed how I look at Alice in Wonderland. Speaking of the untold, ooh, excuse me. We just talked about this. This is going to be a fantastic story. You can get issue 1 and 2 now. It was successfully funded back in 2016 and has returned with joining the team this time around in issue 2 is Chris Mad, bringing his talent and his fantastic way of being an artist and his art style, however you want to put that, into Kickstarter with his art. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to go over it more in a minute. Couldn't be more thrilled. Good friend of mine is the creator, Danielle Faradin. Great guy. I really wanted him on Spoken Sins. I still hope we get to. But speaking of great people is the veteran's wife. The veteran's wife supports veterans when they come back from deployment, something that we all need to do a better job at. And no matter what country you're in, it just doesn't matter if you're an American or if you're Canadian or if you're in France, the troops that go out and protect your country deserve our support when they come home. John will be at HeroCons this weekend. Where's HeroCons, John? I know it. I just have so many cons that I forget what state that's in. While you're on, if you hear my voice, let us know what state that's in. But I know HeroCons is a big one. But Veteran's Wife is one of those things that you can support simply by sharing posts, writing an article, joining the writing staff, buying yourself or a friend a magazine, sponsoring the Veterans Life comic, or visiting them at Comic-Con events and donating. John says that he will be at HeroCons this weekend at Charlotte, North Carolina. So we can join him in that event. And actually, speaking of, this is actually John's thing. This is Tommy. Now, if you notice, we had the Rice Krispies on top, which as a kid was my favorite cereal growing up. And I love that he kind of poked fun at it. What are the oldest true Comic-Cons in the nation? Oh, I didn't know that. HeroCons is one of the originals. I could see that, though, because I always hear great things. I actually want to get to Heroes Con one of these days. That's probably going to try to be on my 2018. My 2017 is beyond busy, but I don't know what I'm doing this weekend. But if I have a chance to do that, because there might be travel in my future, maybe I'll try to stop by HeroCons this weekend. No promises, though. But I would love to meet up with John and see. Like, I mean, when you go to his table, you see all these cool alternate covers. You see all these fantastic ideas. I mean, they turned Operation into Tommy the Murder Game. It's fantastic. This is a great, great story. I've read it. I don't know what to say about it because I'm so impressed by it. I don't want to ruin anything. I think it's better you go in knowing less. Because the less you know, the more impressed you're going to be with both the art and the writing style. It really is a fun ride, and you guys got to be part of it. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. We have on with us right now in our chat room the creator, Mark, for The Threat. Mark, are you still with us? Let's see if we can get, yeah, he's still with us. We're going to be talking about his comic in a few minutes. This is, I mean, I'll hopefully get him to explain, but it's a gigantic story idea. I simply love what they're doing with this, and I can't wait to go over it. Wendell, #1 Vengeance. the Vengeance wears cargo shorts. This is like that hometown hero who plays superhero who doesn't always exactly realize what he's playing. And he gets into some stuff that he's probably not ready for. And it's going to test whether or not he can be a hero. We're going to go over more of that in a minute. Every dollar counts. What does that mean? Well, that means this. If you give even just a single dollar, and it might not sound like a lot, you don't understand that you're now telling the world that you support a creator. With one single dollar, you show confidence in someone's creations. And trust me, that confidence matters. It'll show other people that they have more supporters. And while that dollar might not necessarily to you be a big deal, but sometimes if even 10 of our friends of creators were to just give $1, a lot of us would make our goals easier. You don't understand every dollar counts. So we ask you, if you believe in a project or believe in a creator and you have $1 to spare, please spend it on a creator today on a Kickstarter. Grand is new. I don't know a lot about it. We're going to get into it in a few minutes. Interesting art. I chose this as the cover. Kind of reminds me of World of Warcraft. We're going to see more about that in a minute. We're all going to learn about it. As you see it, it's a bigger story. Angelica Reigns, one of my favorites. Can't wait to read it. For those who don't know, this is part of the SFC family. That's the WWE meets Mutant Powers. Fantastic Kickstarter that was funded just a few months ago. This is actually a spinoff from that fantastic character. She looks badass. Character who we're going to talk more about in just a few minutes as we move on with the program. And one of my favorite things to talk about, a huge hit at the recent Fort Myers SpaceCon event that was fantastic, by the way. I absolutely loved being part of that event, was KICKSTARTER. KICKSTARTER was a great idea of mine. It's going to be explained more in a minute when we go deeper into it. Think of a children's comic book that's affected by comic book creators. How great is that? The Knight has returned to Kickstarter, and I've reviewed the book. I've read the second issue, and it is great. You need to back it. You need to get issue 1 and 2. This is a fantastic idea. We're going to get to explore it more in a few minutes. Italiano, the graphic novel series, which we're going to go more into. Because last week, those of you in the program know that we were dealing with some nasty weather above our heads, so we weren't able to get into this as much as we would have wanted to. So this week we're going to spend some more time, and 2 new add-ons this week. We have the Year of the Goat issue 8 comic book, The Goat Apocalypse, and it comes with cool action figures. I thought that was fantastic. We're going to get more into the swag on this event. And they're already up to issue number 8, and that's fantastic. Tom Spellman, great creator, great staff behind it. And this is the brand newest Kickstarter. This is the fight of the century. This is an MMA, cyberpunk, OGN comic book. We're going to get more into all of that in just a minute. And we're going to talk about, are you one of us? So you guys ready to go into it one by one? Let's do it. We're going to start off right now with Tommy. Tommy, what if your imaginary friend was a serial killer? Tommy is a dark comedy about a kid with an imaginary friend who happens to be a serial killer. And they're using this Kickstarter to help them fund their trip to San Diego. Now, like we talked about last week, going to events is actually very expensive. I know that most people, for those who aren't creators or creators who haven't made it to an event yet, you don't understand that there's a lot of cost into it. You have the table costs. Like most of the fans will pay up to about, like, New York Comic Con, I think, is one of the most expensive ones out there right now, because they don't even do a 4-day because of the construction at the Javits Center. So to get tickets for every day, you have to spend about $160 for tickets. It's kind of expensive. I mean, wow, $160 for 4 days, right? But that's for you, the fans. Understand that a table at New York Comic Con and at San Diego Comic Con can go between $500 from $500 to $1,000, depending on what you're doing, how much square footage you're getting. So, I mean, just there, that's expensive. You have to also factor in hotels, because you usually have to be there, especially the 4-day event, so early in the morning on the first day of the event. You got to figure you need hotels for a day before and then the day after, because a lot of times by the time the event ends, you can't catch a flight. It's a lot of costs that go into it. And I don't think the fans necessarily understand that when they show up and they see creators selling what they're selling and don't understand necessarily the pricing, which we talked about last week. I had written something about it, and it was received quite well. Some people thought that comic book creators needed to find a way to bring prices down, and that's fair. But it also starts with more support and support like this on Kickstarter. That's why I think this Kickstarter is very important to help fund these guys to get to San Diego. Because not only are they fantastic creators, but this is an honest cost. I mean, they're not trying to get away with anything. $3,000 is not that much to actually go to San Diego Comic-Con, considering you're talking about 2 people. Hotel fares, flights, because I know they're based out of Florida. So they're flying, and even if they're driving, that's expensive. No one even realizes driving is expensive in itself. My wife's texting me. It's a French bakery now, my wife's telling me. She's telling me about a Greek thing. Sorry about that. I was talking about food because down in Florida, I'm from New York. I'm still not used to the food. And food is also a cost. That's actually why I naturally brought it up, because she was texting me. Food is something you have to pay because you're going to be out. You're not going to have any food. So now suddenly you're going to have a problem. Nick gave us a YouTube video. I can't watch it right now, obviously, but I'll watch it later, Nick. And hi, Melissa. Melissa's busy working hard. She's got an event coming up very soon for the R4 AU Autistic Jedi program. But Tommy and the creators behind it and a Kickstarter like this, I hope to see more Kickstarters like this. You want to know why? Because this also builds awareness about what's going on. It shows fans, it shows people that, hey, we're human. We need money to get to these events, These events aren't cheap for anyone to be part of, and granted, we could sell comic books all day long, but you have to sell. Perfect example. Let's say that you spent $1,500 to get there. That means you have to sell $1,500 in product just to break even. Now, remember, that's tricky because $1,500 in product doesn't mean profit. You have to understand we've spent money to get those things created to be able to sell them to you. So it's very tricky. Usually, honestly, to break even on a $1,500 bill, you'd have to do around $3,000 in sales. Depending either or, I know people can nitpick that number. I'm just giving a basic example. It could go either way. Some people really don't charge a lot, and they come to Kickstarter and they sell their comic books for $3 or $4 or $5. And I don't necessarily think that's fair for other people who are being honest about their pricing. Just something to think about. I do agree with, it's a trailer. Nick gave us a trailer, and I do agree with Nick who said Tommy is brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. It's one of those things that I wouldn't even want to review because reviewing it, I'd be afraid to give something away. Because it really is one of those things you don't want to give much away with. I'm actually looking forward to seeing them again sometime this year so I can actually see if there's a new issue I don't have. So that's Tommy. This is the reason I think you should be backing it. Remember I was talking about those cool variant covers? Check out those cool variant covers. You can't tell me these guys aren't some of the more creative people in the world that you're going to see. You get to meet them. Let me tell you, meeting them is an experience. And it's a great experience. And that should be, they should be charging admission to be around them. They are really funny guys. Really an enjoyable thing to be around. And look at all those variant covers. You got Tony the Tiger getting a knife through the back of his head. You got Tommy looking like Spider-Man. You got the Rice Krispies one we talked about. You got the hand. You got the I Will Not board. I think it's fantastic. They even have what is this? A electronic device to read on your electronics. So they have a specially devised PDF file, probably to be on your electric device. Probably something along the lines of an Amazon reader. So that's Tommy, and that's something you need to do, and you need to manage your pledge today by making a pledge. Get the patch. We talked about this patch. This patch is going to be at the Written Sins table coming soon. We're going to help build awareness. We're going to help build finances for autism awareness, and we're very proud of that fact. And like I said, it will be for us a nonprofit program. We will not take a single penny of profit. Every penny that doesn't go towards buying these patches and buying them again, of course, because we'll probably, hopefully, have to reinvest in them. Every other cent will be given to Melissa, or Melissa will direct us on where to deposit the extra money. So you know, this is going to be one of those things. And we had a lot of people asking for the patches, and we're listening to the people we're running into at the shows. So this is why we're doing this. And we're doing this because we live in a generation where everyone's affected by autism. Even if you want to say, oh, I don't know anyone who's autistic. Yes, you do. You do know someone who's being affected by autism right now. And very often there are autistic people in our culture who are walking around and sometimes have moments where maybe we do need to be educated on being able to help someone who has autism, because maybe they will need us at one point to step up. And remember, you can be a hero every day by just doing the right thing. So it is important. If you see this at Melissa's event, if you see this at Written Sins, please support it. Remember, it's going to build awareness. It's going to a great cause. And we couldn't be more thrilled to be teaming up with them to help bring that knowledge to the masses. Galaxy Freaks, get out your bong. It's time to enjoy. This is one of the better Kickstarters for stoners. And imagine, I mean, the art is trippy and cool. You get temporary tattoos. I don't know if they're laced with anything. I'm going to say no, because I think that'd be illegal. But wouldn't that be fun? Just to help enhance the, like some coyote or something like that sprinkled right on top. Peyote, not coyote. I'm thinking of Coyote Ugly. Stretch goals unlocked. I mean, this is a fun comic. I mean, you want to not always be serious. You want to have a good laugh. This is something you'll enjoy. This is something that's great. They've been doing it for a while now. I mean, rock on. It's definitely one of those things that I enjoy. We watched the video last week. It was fun. I believe they're more than funded at this point. But that doesn't mean you don't fund them, and I go over this every week. Just because you see someone hit their Kickstarter goal doesn't mean they can't use more. It doesn't mean you shouldn't support them. If they hit their Kickstarter goal and you think you can get the comic book cheaper when you see them at a show, but you still want to support them, remember that $1 thing. $1 matters. So that's Galaxy Freaks, or Galaxa Freaks. I have to get him on the show to ask him how he pronounces that. The Untold, serious and dark, right after humor. The Untold is a fantastic telling of, actually, he's got a great line. Untold is a horror series that combines the psychological unrest with striking visual gore to create a truly terrifying experience. That's a great tagline. I might go to him for my taglines from now on. They're desperately trying to reach their next goal. I believe stretch goal number 2. Actually, they might have I have to talk to them, see if they have another stretch goal. We have crime, and then crime scene, locked and locked, a 2, 3,000 and 3.5. I think they've unlocked both of them at this point. I gotta ask them about that, because they haven't updated it. But that's so fantastic. Congratulations, guys. That means you guys get even more swag. We're gonna have to come back. We're gonna have to talk to them and ask them to unlock it. So I'm sure it happened over this weekend. They probably had a good weekend. But you can catch up on everything. You can see what I selected. I might go up higher. If you're anything like me, you get here and you're looking at prices, because sometimes we do look at the prices, especially if you have a wife who will divorce you if you spend all of your money on Kickstarter. So you want to support people, but you don't want to, spend the kids' college fund. So you want to look at it. And then every so often, like, I mean, my friend Danielle Faraday is across the pond, as they say. And I don't know British money, so I'm always so horrible with it. I love the fact that they translated. It's about 34. Like a year ago, they weren't doing that. It used to confuse me. But if you do see this, just so you know now, Kickstarter did update a few months ago where it does tell you your current currency that it's set to. It might have even been like almost a year ago. I've been on Kickstarter a while now, so it might have been over a year now. But yeah, it does tell you about the exchange rate. And it looks like the American dollar is doing much better than the British pound. But I mean, back to this. This is just, I mean, Chris Matt just amazes me. I got to work with him. He's a great artist. And Danielle, the creator he is, I've talked to him. I've read his work. He is fantastic. He brings, I mean, this I have nightmares about to this date, this moment where someone plunges something in the side of your head and gives you the, what do they call it? Oh, I can't think of the word, but lobotomize, I believe, when they lobotomize a person. That's just horrific that we used to do that. And this is just, I mean, a fantastic program. We have the alternate cover by many different great artists. As a matter of fact, we covered this just the other day by Carl Jones. Carl Jones has to put on the site. We put on the site. fantastic one. That nose thing just creeps me out. You have this very looking attractive girl and her nose is missing. It is just horrific. I really dig it, man. I really dig it. I mean, things like this just, oh, gross. But I mean, that's kind of cool when something challenges you and it gives you that sense awareness, and it brings something to be more alive than it was before, because now you're looking at that and you're creeped out and you're like, I want to know why it's happening. It's like a car wreck. You can't take your eyes off of it. You want to, but you can't. So that's the untold. I've given you tons of reasons to back it. Why haven't you backed it already? And if you've already backed it, why aren't you increasing your pledge? Because there's some fantastic, I mean, Kickstarters like this, they're going to get me divorced with the way I spend my money. So we're going to move on before I keep reading it and go up. Now, the veteran's wife is a very serious thing that I do want to address, because I don't think we do enough for our veterans, and I love what they're doing. This is a fantastic program. As you see, they give out tickets. They do everything they can. They look for missing veterans. And I saw this earlier, so I wanted to talk on this. If anyone has seen Jake, his family's worried about him. He was last seen on Wednesday, May 31st in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Jake has been depressed and left a relative suicide text. He may be wearing a hat, as shown above, blue jeans, and multiple Nintendo controllers. That's the last time I saw him. He might have changed. He also could have a medium camouflage backpack with him. He has tattoos, a Reaper, and his deployment unit, looks like, from the Marines. He's a veteran who served in it. His family thinks that he could be near the woods. It's hard. These guys come back, and I've known guys, man. I've known guys, and we have family who served. My dad served. And I remember my dad would never talk about it, never in his life talk to me about what he had seen. And he died before I was he died when I was 13. So I never really got to, I never got to talk to him like man to man. So I don't know if there would have been things he told me, but I know when he'd get drunk, he'd say things every so often. And he was haunted. He spent the rest of his life haunted by shit he saw. And that stays with me to this date of my life. And I've seen it from friends who deployed, and I've seen it from how families are affected. And I'm very disappointed in us, how we don't do more for our veterans. And this is my way of, I always try to do something for the veterans. My wife does cookies, as many people know at this point. And whenever we do an event in the city, New York City, when we lived in New York City and we had extra cookies, if we saw someone who's homeless, we always gave it to them. And it was a staggering amount of people who were homeless that actually were former vets, or, you know, I know the skeptical people mean like, well, maybe they weren't a vet, they were just using that to get sympathy. But I just don't believe that. I believe we do a horrible job of taking care of them once they're back here. And I do think that I didn't go to the Army because I didn't think that I'd fit in well with the structure of being told what to do. But I mean, I would have served if I felt the nation really needed the help. And I understand what that means. And I really respect everyone who's ever served this country. And I do appreciate everything they give up. And I don't think anyone realizes how much they give up. So supporting programs like Veterans Wife is very important, because they're doing something for the veterans. You know, by supporting them, you're helping veterans. And what else can you do? Mark, we're actually at you. So let me see if I can turn the volume on, see if Mark is with us. Come on, let's turn the volume back on. Mark, can you hear it? Nope, not yet. Mark. There we go.
Hello.
All right, Mark, walk us through what the threat is.
The threat is a futuristic world in which we have allowed corporations to take over certain metropolitan areas due to government financial collapse. The collapse occurs for a number of reasons, kind of along the lines of where we seem to be going right now. Lots of environmental changes, which then affect people's health, and that in turn starts having an increase in deaths just due to normal circumstances. You know, literally the flu could kill you in our future. So Michael Swaj there, he is a kind of a scientist. He works for a research and development company. He ends up creating a cure for that, what we consider the degradation of the human genome. And that cure in turn causes certain people to have recombinant DNA. That DNA combines with plants or animal DNA, portions of plant or animal DNA, and gives certain people extraordinary abilities. These abilities, we tried to keep these abilities pretty scientifically plausible. A lot of them are mental, like Tim Calhoun. He's got the ability to control sand, similar to Sandman, but he's not made of sand and he can't create sand. He's just has the ability to control sand, but it's more of a telekinetic ability. So he's almost got telekinesis limited to just sand. One of our characters, Kevin, he has the ability to form a callus over his entire body that's strong enough to protect him from small round ammunition, pistols, even to a certain extent machine guns. But the main part of the story that we're telling right now is that a group of friends are going to rescue one of their other friends who is trying to do some research to help this little girl. And in order to do that research, he ends up going to Anatech, the company that runs Houston, which is run by Michael Swage. And not everybody knows what the cure did, and he's seeming to figure it out. Nathan is seeming to figure it out, and with that, Swage doesn't want him to be able to do that, so he ends up kidnapping him. So the group of heroes, the group of friends, end up going in to save him, and that's kind of the story arc that we've got running right now. This is the 5th issue in an 8-issue story arc. We're 90% through with the pages. Ray Dillon, who's our new artist, he is currently working on finishing up the inks on most of the pages, and then he's got 3 more pages to do layouts for and turn it to us. And yeah, we're cranking away at it. So you're gonna get, either just issue 5 if you have the previous issues, or all of the issues together. If you don't have any of them, you can get digital copies, you can get print copies. We even have one of our friends, Tommy Wynn, will do sketches of different characters. Vince is my co-creator on the book, and he did a lot of the scientific research on it. Like I said, Ray is the artist on it, and then William Anderson's our colorist, longtime colorist. So yeah, back us, help us out. We could use the support.
Sorry, Mark. Someone just rang the door.
No worries.
Mark, tell me about. Hey, quiet, puppies, relax. Tell me about the science behind it. Is that weird in this day and age to try to compete with the newer fans who want everything explained?
We try to keep everything pretty explanatory. I mean, obviously we don't just give it away up front, but we do try to explain things, kind of the science behind it. And there's some things that we are stretching for, but we still try to give a plausible scientific reason for it all. So but it is kind of weird to try and keep up with that, because not only do you have to science is changing every day, just like our computers. So you've got to kind of keep up with the science and try not to be wrong, I guess is a good way of putting it. You got to try to be accurate, but it's a comic book, so we also play into that a little bit, that we can kind of create our own universe here. So
it is funny that with comic books, like nowadays, like people expect, like you couldn't create Superman nowadays. People
right.
poo-poo you about the idea. But then there's also science that's coming out, like the whole idea of dark matter and the way that waves are changing and the wormhole that they didn't know about back in the day, where being realistic, you wouldn't want to transport anyone because the idea is basically you would kill them to transport them. But nowadays we understand the wormhole technology is more feasible. But you have Star Trek that can talk about beaming, but if you try to beam anyone, people give you a look. So it is a weird time to be a comic book creator as people get smarter. And sometimes too smart for their own good, and they forget it's, like you said, just a comic book. Like it.
Well, one of the funny things, you know, we came up with a way to kind of secretly disperse this cure to the population. You know, Michael, when he was trying to come up with this thing, he didn't really get FDA approval to get it out there. So what he did is he kind of infused that cure into mosquitoes as a dispersion device. And there have been articles written that they're doing stuff like that to try and genetically modify mosquitoes to help decrease the Zika virus thing in Florida. So it's the science that we've created in here seems to be coming to life to a certain extent. Maybe not exactly the way that we've done it, but similar.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And being from both New York and Florida, where mosquitoes are a huge deal, I definitely know what you're talking about. I've read the science behind it. It is fascinating. And like you, I've written things in my book where I had one time talked about dark matter on my Dark Justice guys, where their clothing was so dark you couldn't see it. If you flashed a flashlight on it, you wouldn't see it. The light would go into the material and never escape. Wow. And it's funny, 3 years later, they came up with a dark material that was just like that. And I was like, oh my God, I thought of it. It came true. I can use it. No one can tell me I'm full of shit anymore.
Yeah. I'm curious how some of the old creators, you know, the guy who created Star Trek, some of the old sciences, the guy who created Doctor Who, you know, what do they think? What would they think about some of the science and some of the stuff that we've got now? Because I mean, it's been mimicked that the communicators that they had in the original Star Trek are basically our cell phones now. So.
Yeah, I mean, Star Trek definitely called a lot of technologies. I'm still looking for the replicator, though. I want the replicator. That, I mean, anytime steak dinner. Right. But thank you for being on, Mark. We're going to get back to
no problem. Yeah.
Feel free to hang out. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thanks.
All right, so that's Mark, and he's just giving you a ton of reasons to back the project. I think it's a great project. And as I promised, I'm actually going to back the project this week. And I'm going to, because I've never been actually part of it, I'm going to go with the, I'm going to get every issue, I believe is this one, because I want to see it. I'm sold. So I obviously don't want you guys to steal my credit card information. So I'll finish this when I'm off the air. But that's where I'm going to go, and that's where I suggest everyone else goes. Get all 5 issues like me for $25. How awesome is that? $31 with shipping if you're in the United States. I'm definitely going to be backing it there, and I suggest everyone join me in backing it at that level, because this sounds like a fantastic story. I might even go up to the Threat Collector. I gotta talk to the wife about that one, because I don't want to be divorced. Wendell's a great project. We were going to have the creator on. I think he's a little busy. Benjamin is a backer, if you know Benjamin. So it's always interesting to see which one of your friends is backing things, because sometimes it's funny, the guys you see backing things that you wouldn't expect it. Like some of the things that I've seen, like Dirk Manning back something I wouldn't necessarily see him backing. I've seen Philippe backs a lot of weird stuff too, and I love it because it helps me reach out to new creators. Philippe Cagno, who did The Few and the Cursed, he backs some interesting stuff. I love it. I love the fact that they show you who your friends are backing, because sometimes that's a great thing in itself. And Wendell, I mean, I was reading an article today about real life superheroes who dress up and go out of their way, and they do all this stuff to protect their cities, and it's a real thing, and it's only getting more popular, things going. None of them, I would say, have gone to being vigilantes necessarily. Like, I don't think anyone's going out and fighting crime in the middle of the night in their Batman voice. But their presence does help. They give out food to the homeless. They really are, in their own right, superheroes. Now, Wendell's a little different. Wendell's actually trying to be a vigilante. He treats his apartment complex as an actual as an actual city. Like, he's patrolling it, and he's serious about patrolling it. And that's kind of a fantastic idea in itself. The art is kind of interesting. I like the different take on it. I love the red eyes in it. And I just like the presence of it. I like that they're not afraid to tell a joke about it, but there's also something underground and under it that's coming. And you can tell it's big when you read this preview. There are ninjas on the roof, he says, on Building H. Now he's got to go. He must go to Building H. What's going on? I have to know what's going on in Building H. And I have to know so much that this is one of those projects that this week I'm also going to be backing. I'm going to be backing it off the air because I don't want anyone stealing my credit card information. Thank you very much. But I mean, an autographed Wendell #1 sounds cool. Digital copy of Wendell. I mean, you get both. And sometimes it also comes down to, if you're anything like me, shipping. You know, I understand shipping costs, and the less the shipping cost, like if it's between $1 and $5, it ain't so bad. And if it's a little bit more, like, because I mean, like, you'll do one of these and you'll see the shipping cost goes up to 10, but that's because it's an 11 by 17. But you know, it depends on how much you're getting into it. And I like 11 by 17s. I think sometimes they're a little overpriced, but this one's fair. I would say that's a perfect a value for the money. $30 will get you the autographed special limited edition Kickstarter version and an autographed 11 by 17 print. I don't know if that's autographed, actually, just as a print of Justice, Vengeance, and there's City Sprawling. And remember, when you're backing a Kickstarter, and I like to talk about this every program, you know, when it comes to pricing, so I do think that beyond creators, some people don't understand pricing mechanisms. When you're backing a Kickstarter, you're also backing. I just got a picture of my wife about my son playing at Happy's over here in Florida, Fort Myers, or Cape Coral, I should say. When you're backing one of these Kickstarters, you're also backing the creativity to create a new world. You're spending a little bit more to keep creation alive. You're backing them to continue to stop the reboot culture. We're going to go more about that in the Are You One of Us segment at the end of the show. But I want you to understand that, like, when you're backing a creator, you're also backing the future of creative work. And I know that sounds like maybe a little campy, maybe a little overzealous, but it's the truth. It really is. You're creating a need for a different world. And if everything goes the way it looks like it's going to go, Kickstarter will outsell, bring in more revenue for comic books than Marvel or DC. Wrap your mind around that. The money that's disappearing from Marvel and DC isn't disappearing. It is actually being reinvested into new worlds on Kickstarter. So when you're looking at something, and I'm not saying that anything's overpriced on Wendell. I don't want you guys to take it that way. I'm just trying to tell you that when you look at 11 by 17s, you're paying $10 because you're also paying for what went behind it. Like, when you guys buy shoes, do you really think the shoes cost $100? Of course not. You're paying for the research. You're paying for the advertising. You're paying for everything it took to get them to the shelf. Comic books are no different. I don't know why people treat comic books, magazines, and books like they're somehow different and don't have to go through the same standards, and comics have to be $1. Okay, everyone who says that comic books have to be $1 from now on has to make a comic book and sell it for $1. Because when they sell it for $1, we'll all start selling it for $1. And it's got to be top quality. It can't be a piece of crap. And it's got to be distributed. And they got to pay for their art. They can't have someone do it. If they're going to do all that and print it and sell it for $1 and show us how they made money off of it, because I don't want to just see them lose money. They have to prove profiteering. Then we can all take their dynamic and do it. Because unless you're a millionaire and you can afford to print millions of copies to drive that print price down, and then are able to distribute it to the millions of people for the prints, it doesn't work that way in this world. And I'm not saying it can't. Every creator is going to price things differently because every creator is paying different things for price, because there are no standardized pricing in art. There should not be. Artists, some are very talented and should get paid more for the talent, and some are new. John says it's impossible for a comic book to be $1, and if you print 3,000 at a big print, you're probably looking at $80 to print each book. Yeah, that's right. I mean, he's proving it right there. That's 3,000, 80 cents per book, and you're not covering your artist costs. You're not covering your table costs. There's so much, like, I don't understand the mentality of fans when they go to comic book shows, Comic Cons, or they even go to comic book stores, and they're like, I don't understand why a comic book's $4.99. I do. Have you guys seen how much a damn candy bar is now? A candy bar now runs almost $1.19 at some places, and we're gonna get angry at comic books for costing what is essentially what it is to make a comic book. It's entertainment. No one reads a comic book. And yeah, that's right. And Diamond takes 60% of that. So when you're going to Diamond and selling through Diamond, and people don't get that, well, like, you know, it's good to be in a comic book store. It's great to be in Diamond. It's great to be, you know, have all these places. Amazon. It's great to have your stuff on Amazon. All those places, it's great to have it on. We appreciate it. But we also want our consumer to understand that, like, when you see that cover price, that's what we're able to sell it at. And we're not doing it. No one's making millions of dollars by going to Comic Cons and selling you overpriced stuff. The people who are truly selling overpriced stuff, and I'll admit there are creators out there and there are people making businesses out of it, and I'm not a fan of that. I am very angry at the people who do try to make a business out of other people's work and selling it and reprinting it, and I think they do drive the value down, and I do think they do a disjustice to our industry as indie comic book creators. I do think when someone gets hundreds of prints from different creators and just tries to sell them for a business model, it hurts, because those 11x17s the creators are selling you often, that's theirs, you know what I mean? And a lot of these bigger companies aren't getting the rights to do this. So remember that when you go to a place and you're underpaying for an 11x17, or you're underpaying for that. You're paying for skill, you're paying for time, you're paying for tables, you're paying for a creative world. So when you're backing something like Wendell, when you're backing something like Tommy, you're also backing the continuation of those stories. You have to look at it that way. Do you want to see the world continue that they're creating? And that's what it comes down to. So what if you have to spend $1 or more, a dollar more than some other places? Who cares if it costs $10 for that one issue? Here's a little tidbit I'm going to give you, and this is nothing against Marvel or DC, but 90% of the time you're going to get more creative stuff. You're going to get more interesting stuff from indie comics, because indie comics can take chances, because we're not worried about upsetting people. We're not worried about losing a fan base. We're not worried about the media attacking us for a decision we made today. We're creating something that we're a fan of, and you see that in indie comics more than you do in Marvel and DC. And that's not a dig on Marvel and DC. That's because they can't be as free as we are, and it's just the truth. And it's sad. It's sad. I know I've talked to a lot of Marvel and DC creators. I can't name any names, and I won't name any names. But the ones that I've spoken to would like to see more freedom in the creativity. And understand when I say this, it is the truth. And I heard this from the DC guys. It was at the panel at Orlando MegaCon. It was, I forgot the guy's name, but I believe he's the editor of DC right now. He was talking to Greg Capulli and Scott Snyder, and he had said the whole reason that Scott Snyder and Greg Capulli get so much room to make Batman Metal coming out, and the reason these new ideas are coming out, is because of what we're supporting in indie comics. Because the companies see that indie comics is bringing a change, because you guys want more content. You want different content. You want more powerful content. So when you're backing Wendell, when you're backing Tommy, when you're backing anything I show today, you are showing Marvel and DC and the world that there has to be more story told. There has to be a difference. And you give power to Scott Snyder. You give power to the editor. You give power to the creative guys at Marvel and DC to start taking chances like Stan Lee got to take. Stan Lee could never do what Stan Lee did in this day and age, because when he did it, Marvel was about to go out of business and no one cared. And he was able to create whatever the hell he wanted. You don't see that in Marvel and DC right now, because they have shareholders. They have businesses. They can't do that without our help, and our help starts here, because the more we support indie comics, the more we support creative ideas going from Marvel and DC, the more we get to see. DC is now rising. I've got to give them credit. They have a great product right now. Marvel's trying to do the same thing, and they're paying attention, and they're seeing where the numbers are. So when you support indie comics, understand you're supporting change. You're supporting new ideas. You're supporting new creations. You're supporting something different. So when you're paying that price, understand you're investing in the future of creativity, so we can stop the fucking reboot culture, because I cannot watch Spider-Man #1 again. They have one last chance to tell me the story of Peter Parker, and that's it. I will never go to a theater for another Spider-Man #1. I'm sorry, I'm done. 10 of them was enough. But Wendell is a superhero saving a community at night, and it looks fantastic. It's already made its goal, so jump on board, become a fan like me, and invest in the future of Wendell. Grand. Now, Grand I've never seen. This is book 3 about this project. It's in a realm where power is the true ruler. It's a fight against the human barbarian clans and the Gunnerow dwarves for the right to rule the savage lands. It looks like exactly like I thought. It's going to be one of those World of Warcraft type-based things. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not a huge fan of World of Warcraft. Nothing against it. I don't hate it. I'm not going to try to talk about it. It just doesn't grab my interest. It's just one of those things that I don't know. I'm not that interested in it. It's my bad. But with that said, this actually kind of looks interesting. I mean, I got to admit, like when I'm seeing this, I'm seeing the art in it. You know, the fact that there's so much words put to it, like the expressiveness of this, I think it's great. The variant covers that they're showing. I like the characters. It looks very engaging. I am very much interested in this. So it's interesting because, like, you also see, and I did catch this when I was making it for the site, and I'm sorry about the fast scroll. I hate fast scroll. But check that out. That made me a fan. Look at that. You don't get that with Marvel. That kind of idea. You don't get that with well, maybe DC. DC does some crazy stuff sometimes, but just check that out. How cool is that? That right there. Okay, that right there made me stop and think, maybe I do want to back this. And what I'm going to do right now, because of that book, because they impressed me so much, and because it's my show and I can do whatever I want, we're going to watch a video. All right, and to see the rest of that video, check out Grand now on Kickstarter. We're going to move on to Angelica Reigns. Fantastic thing. And we're going to take a look at speaking of watching videos, we're actually going to take a quick look at this video because I don't think we got to last week because the storm was getting worse. So let's take a moment and check out Angelica Reigns. I am always so impressed by the music on that. I'm probably going to watch it every time I get a chance. Fantastic group behind it. I know the creators. I know Brian is the writer. We're going to go over to the group behind it. I know Markel Dupree is behind the scenes. making sure that this is going to be one of the best comic books that he could possibly get you. He's very excited about it. I know the creative staff behind it. And you see as we're going how many great freaking products they have for this. Like, just amazing. I mean, free shipping in the U.S. Are you kidding me? How can't you take advantage of free shipping in the U.S.? Come on. You know you want it. They got the dark arts. I mean, like, literally the way that this is like a store. This isn't a Kickstarter. This is like a store. And I know Kickstarter says it's not a store, but as many things as this has on it, they're going to do a pop figure. That's right. There's going to be an actual pop figure. How freaking cool is that? And there's Brian himself. I actually just remembered. I don't think they actually did. They have a? Yeah, they do have a. Okay, this is the team behind it. We have my friend Brian Hawkins, great guy. I think me and Brian are gonna maybe working on something that we can't talk about that we're gonna talk about later on this year, hopefully. Bob Sally's joined us. Bob Sally, great creator himself, actually doesn't have a Kickstarter going, which is always weird not to see one of Bob Sally. Bob Sally's putting things out every month. Like, I think he took June off because we don't have a Kickstarter from somehow Bob Sally. But I mean, Brian's a great guy. Bob Sally, I was talking like Brian and me and you, there might be something coming in the future. Right, won't there? It could be something we can talk about maybe later. Coming from maybe Chris Med and Daniel Faraday, you know, just might be a big project with a whole bunch of different creators coming out soon. Stay tuned. You have Federico Sabathian. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry if I'm not, Federico. Brian Hawkins is here. Brian Hawkins is here in the chat room. Brian, we're talking about your amazing project. We just watched that video. I love the music. I might actually put that music on my playlist for the when I do physical therapy. This is a fantastic team. We have Chara Merede. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm so horrible with names. I'm sorry. And Bryant Fowler. Fantastic team. I mean, this is a great story. I can't wait to get it in my hands. I got to read Delia Blast, and Delia Blast, me too. Brian wants to, and that's funny. Brian's right. Like, it's always different when you have your comic book in your hand and when you're watching it, reading it digitally. I don't like digital. One of the worst parts about doing the reviews, and we've built a bigger review staff now, and I hate doing reviews on digital comics. And I know it makes me sound snobbish, but there's just something about the smell of the comic book and the feel of it and seeing it in your hands. And I said that with like Fetish Babies. When we did Fetish Babies, I said that like when you don't have it in your hand, you're missing out. Because the way that the art is, you need to have that in your hand because the screen will never do it justice like being in your hand. And so I definitely know what Brian means, wanting it in your hand. And I want to be able to read it because I know Brian's a creative guy. I've read some of the stuff that he did. I loved what he did with American Kingdom. I can't wait till American Kingdom comes back. I can't wait till Bob Sally comes back out. I know that the Salvagers have been just a fantastic entity, so we can't wait to cover that again on the show. I mean, this is like one of my favorites this year, and I've known about this now. I knew about Angelica Reigns, and I've been seeing the stuff because I'm friends with these guys, and I've seen the preview stuff, and I'm just so excited. I mean, this is one of those things where if you're not backing it, I hate to say it, but you're an idiot. You know, and I've never said that in the show before, and I'm saying that because, like, there is no reason not to back this. I mean, this is the Kickstarter possibly of the year next to Jax the Anderson, which we'll talk about in a minute. This is the Kickstarter of the year because what you don't know is that this sets the stage for things to come. So that's why this one is so important. And the creative team behind this, the FFC Comics, the Evolution, it is a fantastic group of creators. Markel Dupree, we're actually going to have, he's our splash pager for June. We're just having trouble getting his information. I want to get his bio together, and his bio is so long that it's going to be one of those things where I'm going to need 2 threads. And I mean, the creative force behind these guys coming together, Brian being the writer, I mean, American Kingdom, my God, what a great idea. and what great timing that came out in. And I mean, this is 22 pages of full action comic book with a young woman. And it's going to be, I've read what these guys put out. 22 pages is going to be a nonstop thrill ride. I mean, I can already see this in my mind. I haven't read it. I've read the FFC comic, but I haven't read this story in itself. But I can already see this instantly being in my mind something that I could easily translate to a animated movie. Not a cartoon, but an animated movie. Because I say that because animated movies always seem to take themselves a lot more serious than a cartoon. And I see this being a very serious property. I think that the art is as always from these projects, stellar. I really like the art style. It's like a crossbreed, if I had to say, between anime and the traditional comic book art. And it's kind of cool that way. And I mean, they even tell you the production costs and all that. They're upfront about it. This is why we're asking $4,000. And I mean, that's an honest thing. Just, I mean, why wouldn't you back this? I don't understand it. Like I'm telling you guys, I'm not even asking you to back it, because if you're not backing it, I really do think you're missing out. This isn't one of those ones where I'm asking anyone to back it, because you'd be a fool not to back this one, because it's part of a bigger universe and it's great storytelling. I mean, you can't put together the creative team and the creative group that's behind this without knowing that you're about to get something fantastic. And you could see that it's got all the elements of a great comic book. It's got the great art. It's ready. Just in here, you're already being told something about the story that makes you wonder what's next. You know what I mean? And you get to see that they're going to be telling you a big story. And I love the fact that there's a strong female character. I'm a brother. I'm a husband. I am an uncle. And I'm a man who appreciates the power of women and how important women are. And I think any project that shows powerful women does need to be given a little bit more love, does need to be shared a little bit more. And I think it's because we do need to treat women as equals. And comic books like this, believe it or not, help bring that equality, because it's a strong female character. She's not waiting to be saved. She's going to be the one doing the saving. And that's awesome. And with the success of Wonder Woman, it paves the way finally to show that female creations, not creators, but female creators are awesome, don't get me wrong, but female creations, characters, they're very important as well. And they do matter, and they will get money, and they are box office hits, and they are something that's substantial. And I do think that this is something that you need to be backing. I mean, I can't say it any other way. You know, this is just, I mean, the music itself. I could play the music again, but I won't bother anymore with that. But I mean, come on. I mean, Angelica Reigns is the first solo of the SC comic line. It says it right there. It's the first solo series from the FFC comic line. That means the FFC world is coming to you. That means this is your jump off part. This is the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is the beginning. I'll see you later, Brian. Brian says he appreciates the support, man. I appreciate supporting you, Brian. I know how hard of work you are. I know how great you are. Go be safe. Have a safe trip. I'm sure you're doing something creative soon. So, and have a great day. But Brian is awesome. And I mean, seriously, like I was saying, you know, this is opening the beginning of an MCU for them. This is a brand new universe coming. We're always talking about creating new worlds. They're creating a new freaking universe, man. There are going to be tons of different things. There are layers to these stories. And sometimes I know things that, you know, some people might not know because of written sins. I can just say it's going to be an exciting ride, and this is your first stop. So if you don't get it now, if you're not investing today in this, you're going to have to go back and get it. So you can either be part of the people who first supported it and have that on your Kickstarter page where you can kind of brag about it, or, you know, you can be that person who gets left behind and then later tries to catch up, you know, like the guy at the Super Bowl is suddenly the fan of the team. You want to be that guy? You want to be the guy, the fan of the team at the beginning of the season? That's the choice, you know, or girl, you know. I know we have comic book fans that are females. That's one of the biggest growing segment of comic books right now is actually the female fans who are showing up and enjoying it. I love talking to women at Comic-Cons and showing them the respect they deserve about comic books. And I had one girl actually go, well, what makes you think I'm a comic book fan? And I said to her, why wouldn't you be? And she loved that answer. And I do think that there is a change in our society that is finally here where women are equals. And I don't think you can look at a woman and go, well, she won't, because if you do that, you're not in 2017, and you're certainly not going forward with that idea. Women can do anything a man can do, just as good, sometimes better. And I say sometimes better because we all have our skills, and I'm not going to turn it into man versus female. I'm just going to say that females do certain things better than males. Males do certain things better than females in an individual basis, not as a sex versus sex thing. We all have our heroes. We all have our greats. Like tennis pros, and I personally think they should interact in intergender competitions. I think that women are good enough to beat men. I think Serena Williams would definitely kick the crap out of most of the men tennis players. Just saying. And you put some girls on there from those rugby teams, on the football teams, and make some serious tackles. I would love to see that. And I definitely would love to see women in sports. But it all begins with supporting characters here and showing that people want to see women in powerful positions. And comic books like Angelica Reigns does that. It opens the market to new ideas and new thinking. KICKSTARTER, we finally get to talk about KICKSTARTER. Ooh, people are showing me things. I don't know if you guys can see that, so I have to hide it. But KICKSTARTER, this is for my boy. We had it on the countdown. I just want to go back to the countdown and just show it real quick, because this is the newest art I have colored in. This is from Dave Brown. Dave Brown's doing amazing things. Just fantastic. I mean, I was writing issue number 2 already. And the issue number 2 came to life at the Comic-Con that I am. Now, let's explain what KICKSTARTER is for you people who don't know. And I won't take offense to the fact you don't know, and I'll just explain what it is. KICKSTARTER is an idea that came up, and I'll be honest with everyone why it came up. I was talking to someone, and they had invited me to be part of their program. I wanted to know if I wanted a table. And they were discussing with me, because they know about what I do for Written Sins, they were discussing with me what I actually am a creator behind. And right now, technically, the only commercial property, and I say commercial because the only thing I've intended to sell is Fetish Babies. I have Dark Justice, I have NYR, and I have Gothic Blue in limited prints that I do bring to my table if anyone wants to buy them. They were never produced to be sold, but I will sell them because, if I'm going to be at a table, I might as well offer the different varieties of my writing. Now, in a lot of ways, I don't think that I would ever necessarily reproduce them outside of reproducing them for, hey, this is what I started doing. If there's a new story to be told, it'll be told again and rewritten, and not rebooted, but just told the way it always was meant to be. The things that I had produced were always just showing the world how serious I was. So with that in mind, the only thing that I've had printed so far is Fetish Babies. I have a lot of things that I've been hinting towards over the last couple weeks. Me and Jacob have Wild Space coming out soon. We're working on the format of that. We have something interesting in mind for that. We have, and they call us monsters, with me and Claudio. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I've never actually heard. I think it's Claudio, because I had someone who I worked with who had the same spelling. But he's just nailing it with this amazing art with the monsters. Painbox, which I haven't talked a lot about, with Matt Slay, and that's a very personal story, and I can't wait to share more about that. But then none of that was ready. So when I was talking to this person about joining the event, this is going to be in November, they were like, well, it's going to be very kids-friendly. Do you have anything that you could do for kids-friendly? And the one thing that came to my mind was the anti-bullying thing, and I told them about it, and it's now on our Sinful Comic store. My wife's selling it on her store. I've granted her the right to sell it, and amazing art done, an anti-bullying piece. We're selling it for $2 just because I think anti-bullying is so important. I'm actually going to try to get it into high school and colleges, so I think it tells a fantastic message, and I think everyone who's read it has been really impressed by it, and people really have applauded me for it, so I'm very proud of that work. But besides that, I didn't have anything really family-friendly, so I said, okay, I'll make a kid's book. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah, I'll make a kid's book. And while I was talking to her over in 20 minutes, I began to write KICKSTARTER. And it instantly came to me, one of the things is a children's book that I've never seen. And I've always looked at my son, and I've always thought, wow, he's going to have a much different life than anyone, because he has a dad who will watch cartoons with him. He has a dad who looks at the world like a kid does. And I always talk about this with my wife, that I remember being a kid. I don't know if a lot of adults do, but I do. I remember being a kid. I remember being told no all the time, how much it sucked. I remember people telling me things that when you grow up and never taking me serious as the person I was in those moments. And I remember people not taking things like the way that people answer kids, I always find is so short and like trivial. Like, why would you ask that? And I'm not saying everyone does it. I'm just saying I remember it from growing up being treated that way. And I do see it from certain people where kids ask a question, you don't take it serious. And I was like, I want to write a comic book about my son and the positive effects that he'll have because I'm an indie comic book creator and my wife's an indie comic book creator and we're both creative people. You know, she makes the cookies. I've been writing comics for 13 years now. I wanted her and me to be part of a story with Jax where Jax is growing up in this world and he's growing up in a place where there's all this fantastic creativity going on around him and the ability that he could ask things about, you know, about what's a superhero and talking about how being at Comic-Cons will affect him because he gets to go to, and I grew up in New York City. One of the best parts of growing up in New York City is it really was a melting pot. And I have been concerned being in Florida that there is, especially where we live over in Fort Myers and Cape Coral, I'm worried about him not necessarily experiencing as much as I experienced growing up. And I realized at a comic book event when he was talking and just playing with his toys, and I put the video up on my page, and he's playing with 2 Batman toys. And what didn't get caught in the video is later people come over and start talking to him. And he was talking to people, and he was interactable. He's 2, so he was making sounds and getting excited as they were seeing him play. But it was people who weren't necessarily, you know, I mean, it was a multicultural crowd that showed up at the comic book convention, and he got to interact with kids that aren't always necessarily possibly going to be someone he can interact with here because in Florida, the demographics are not the same as New York City. And I was like, wow, he'll still get to be able to see the world and not have that only the few cultures that are around him every day. He'll get to see all the different cultures. Like he'll get to see the populations of everyone. How cool is that? And the fact that we're probably going to go to New York Comic Con. He might not go this year, but next year when I go to New York Comic Con, he'll definitely be with me when he's a little older. We don't know if we're getting a table yet. We actually find out on Friday if Written Sins and Sinsful Comics will have a table. And if we do have a table, we're going to be sharing it with someone. And I can't wait to announce it. I don't want to say anything now because nothing's finalized and I don't like talking when it's not done. So check back. But I want to take him to show him new worlds. And I think it's fantastic. So that's what this is. This is going to be a comic book story that has to do with a kid growing up in a creative environment and going to Comic-Cons. How cool is that? Everyone's heard it, loves the idea. They love the idea. I talked to Scott Snyder about it when I met him in Orlando and I did the fan experience because, as my wife said, you're a fan first. And I really appreciate how honest Scott is. And I have his Witches book and all that. He's a great creator and Greg Capaldi. And I was wearing the T-shirt with Mr.Andersin. And he had mentioned we talked about the fact that he's seen me and we've seen each other a couple times now. And he's starting to know who I am. He knew what Written Sins was, which thrilled me that he knew what Written Sins was. But he said, "Oh, that looks cool. What's that?" And I had mentioned that I'm making a comic book about him, and his middle name is Damien because of what Scott Snyder did, and that's how the conversation came up. And he pointed to the shirt, and I said, "This is going to be about comic book creators." And he's like, "Wow, that's a great idea. I'd love to read that." And then he started telling me about a project that he's planning to do with his son, which I don't want to talk much about because he hasn't announced it. It's not my place. It was cool to see. The reason I bring it up is 2 parents who are comic book creators, obviously on different levels. I don't think I'm on his level. I like to think one day I will be, and he'll be one of my peers. But for now, you know, he's a lot more advanced in the game than I am. But we got to connect on that level of being parents and talking about our kids and how our lives are affecting those children. And I thought, what a great comic book this is. And I'm going to tell you guys, because you show up to these programs and you listen to me battle on about Kickstarters. And I always like to, when you guys show up, be a little more honest than I am in the threads I make and the information I release. There is a bigger plan behind Mr.Andersin. If everything goes according to what I think will happen, there will be an opportunity for every creator that I know who's a parent or has a niece or a nephew to have an opportunity to make an anthology comic book for all the kids in our life. That is a big goal of this project. While I don't think I'd ever stop doing Mr.Andersin as a children's book series, I'll do it as long as people want it. I do think that there's this bigger project out there where all the creators can come and finally talk about something we normally don't get to talk about, our children. And we'll get to share stories. And it doesn't matter how old your kid is, we'll just age them to the age that they were. So we always remember how our kid was at a certain age. So we'll just make them all the same age. Think of it like Muppet Babies for creative kids from creative parents. And that's the goal. And it'll be a giant coloring book, and that's the idea. So as I'm starting this, that's the long-term goal. So there's a bigger plan. And I haven't mentioned anything online about this. I talk to people at conventions because they're listening, and I tell you guys, my friends, the sinners, the fans, and the creators who back Written Sins, that when you see this project, there's something bigger behind it, and it's coming. And it's going to be fantastic. And we're going to find a way to make this coloring book happen. And it's going to be, as far as I know, the first anthology coloring book ever in history. So look forward to that. That was Mr.Andersin. That's coming out June 30th on Kickstarter. Everyone mark your calendars. I'm going to be preaching about that one, let me tell you. Night number 2, The Maiden and the Sorcerer. We have the story continuing. I don't want to give a lot away. I'll say this, go to writtensins.com, read both of my reviews for both of the books. You'll see how emphatic I am about them. Emphatic, I think I'm saying that word wrong. They're so close to their goals with 20 days to go. Please back them. This is a great project. Once again, Evolution's coming. I'm telling you, these guys are gonna be big. These are your tickets to the beginning of something grand. This is the newest MCU coming to life. Italiano. Now, I didn't get to really talk about this project last week because we had the storm above our heads, and we talked about the night, and I gave the night a lot of love, and I'll give the night more love next week. But I did want to get to this, and I know we're running short on time. I promised that we would get more into this, so here we go. Studio.
Hi, I'm Mike Bloom, and I draw comics. I also like to hang out with my kids. Hang out with my wife, and wrestle these monsters. But I spend a lot of time drawing comics. In fact, I spent 15 years creating the world of Italiano. Italiano is the story of 4 very colorful mob families, locked in a war for control over Capital City. The series follows Mario Italiano, the East Coast Don, as he wages wars, strikes alliances, and attempts to seize power from his rivals. Although Mario is our main focus, the series will explore the inner workings of all 4 of these insane families, and even the mayor and his mob squad, as they attempt to take them down. Capital City is huge. with 4 territories divided into 24 distinct regions, all bursting with personality. You will never get bored. Over the years, I've filled this city with over 200 of the craziest characters you've ever seen, creating a virtual ecosystem of mayhem for you to enjoy. I've written and written and written some more, and now have over 50 issues of content that I've divided into 4-issue arcs so I can unveil to you one of the greatest stories ever told. The book is packed with action and humor and murder and a climactic ending that will blow your mind. But it all starts here. With your help, I can bring my vision to life in print. So scroll down and choose from one of the many amazing backer tiers. Or just skip to the next project and crush my dreams into oblivion. But seriously, everyone, thanks for watching. This book is my passion, and I'm really excited to bring this series to life, and I can't wait to share with you. So thanks for backing, and I'll see you again soon.
All right, now that looks fantastic. And to answer one question, I know I had actually gotten caught during playing one of these videos in one of the recent Kickstarters, and someone saw me walking around the background, and they were like, "You walk away during the videos?" I'll either, because this goes on for like an hour and 20 minutes sometimes longer. I can't sit for very long. My back kills me. For those who, most of you know, and those who don't know, I have a spinal problem due to a work injury. So you see me walking around, I'm usually stretching. I can't stay comfortable for long, sitting anywhere or doing anything for long. It's unfortunate. I wake up in the middle of the night having to move around to stop my body from stiffening. So that's why you see me walking around sometimes, because sometimes I just need to stretch. But these videos help me actually take that stretch break, and I get to see cool content with you guys. So how awesome is that? Now, you have every reason to back this. And don't crush his dreams. Come on, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy who crushes his dream. He needs $10,000. He's been working on it for 15 freaking years. If a pharmaceutical company was working on something for 15 years, they would charge you $1 million for it. 15 years. I think he said 15. 15 or 10. One of it. A long time. A long time. Come on. You know, just think about where you were 15 years ago. He was working on this. So definitely back it. I will be backing. He sold me. I'm going to support the project. I'm going to be a digital thug, I think. Or maybe I'll be a digital doer. Maybe I'll be a made man. Let's see what the shipping is. Ooh, there's no shipping. Really? See right there, the not shipping thing? I mean, that you had me at no shipping. You had me at no shipping. Year of the Goat. Year of the Goat is the Goat Apocalypse. Bluebell catches up with an old friend. Supplies arrive to San Pablo, and El Diablo's road trip is halted by the stranger. We're going to take a minute, and I'm going to take a stretch. You guys are going to watch the video. How awesome did that look? I mean, I always love these. I've backed a few of them. This is from Tom Spellman, who's a great creator. Obviously been pushing forward. He's at issue number 8 already. I just wanted to take a minute. We just added this today. And let me just be honest with you. When it comes to Tom Spellman, I don't think he even needs our help promoting it. Obviously, we're going to help because he's awesome. But I don't think he needs my help because he keeps just churning them out. He's like another Bob Sally. He gets stuff out, man. And you see it. You're the goat. Here it goes. As we went, oh, the chained up goat. That's kind of sad. That was all this stuff issue 6, and here we go. Here are the figures. How cool is that? Anyone who has action figures, I'm instantly more interested in. I don't know why. My wife would call me a hoarder because I like cool stuff, and this looks cool, and that's the point of this program. I'm showing you cool stuff, so you're welcome. Back the year of the goat. And if goat isn't your thing, maybe the fight of the century is your passion. Uh-oh, this is not rated. It could be bad. Close your eyes if you're a child.
In the not-so-distant future, Rexco presents Everything will be settled in the ring. Do it. Mother. From the writers of BAM and C-listers. And from the artist of G.I. Joe vs. Cobra. Fight of the century. This comic book is not yet rated.
That comic book should be rated crazy. That's crazy, cool, and awesome. I like it. I dig it. I want to be part of it. And so should you. And speaking of being part of something, because now we know this is awesome and it's got 60 days to fund. So we're going to be talking a lot about this, but that video was awesome. So I don't know if I can do better. Speaking of being part of something, are you one of us? So, okay, so what does are you one of us means? Well, last year we asked creators if they were one of us and offered to give them exposure, and hundreds of them answered yes. That's right, hundreds of artists. Last count, we can say that we have helped 1,000, maybe thousands of artists if you count our tagging system, and that's ridiculous. We're up to almost our 200th interview. Nick Allen, you're welcome. It looks amazing. Nick Allen is in the chat room right now on Facebook. Did a great job. I mean, that video itself that we just watched was worth the price of any Kickstarter admission. So I definitely think that Nick did a great job with him and his team, and I look forward to covering you guys more in the coming weeks. You'll be on every program for the next 60 days that we do. What we were doing with the Are You One of Us last year was all about creators. This year, we understand that this is going to be our bigger year. 1 year later, we have to start asking everyone, are you one of us? And what does are you one of us means? Well, if you're a cosplayer, why not get cos if you didn't have us help promote your page? If you're a creator who wants to build name recognition, why not take the 7 deadly questions interview. Have a Kickstarter? You want to help it get funded? Join over the 100 Kickstarters we have helped get funded, and that number is rising all the time. And when we say we help get funded, I want to make sure everyone understands that I don't mean to take credit for their success. Their success is always their own. I just want people to know that we're helping all these Kickstarters, and we can help theirs. And I do think our exposure, a few people have thanked me and really said that we really mattered to their success. And I know there's some Kickstarters that when they were at issue 1, they said if it wasn't for us, they would have never made it to issue 4. So, I mean, there's a couple like that. And it's always great to hear that we make a difference, and we want to make a difference for your Kickstarter. So if you have a Kickstarter, seriously, be part of this show. I mean, you see the exposure where we're getting hundreds of views between this and YouTube, and then it keeps getting promoted throughout the week, and the list itself gets hundreds of views. Just last week, this list almost made, was it last week? Yeah, last week, this list almost made our Last Week in Sin, which is the 7 top threads that we put out there. And we put out, oh God, we put out hundreds of threads a week, don't we? So, I mean, there's competition. So, I mean, we're always putting up information. I think that last week we put over almost 200 threads up. Last week was pretty busy, and it was number 9, but it was close to 7. Between 7, 8, 9 wasn't a lot of difference. So, yeah. We also do be part of our Facebook, where if you post something on our Facebook group, it winds up on our site, where we actually do it probably once or twice a week, depending on how much has been posted. We usually try to wait a couple days because obviously if you've posted it on our Facebook group, we don't want to repost something and just make it look like noise. Unless it's time sensitive, we'll give it a day or 2, maybe even a week. And then next week, when the dust has died from what you promoted, we promote it behind you. We share daily art, which everyone sees, and the daily art has helped build fan bases for artists, and it's also brought artists together with creators. Like our Facebook page, and you get instantly what we post on our site delivered to Facebook. You know, we want to believe that you check our site daily, but we also know you're on Facebook all the time. And being on Facebook, if you go to that, you can see everything at once that's come, and you can easily share it. And that's what the great thing about that is that if you see your own work, you can now share it with everyone within seconds. How cool is that? We also do, are you a fan of exciting new projects? Follow us on Twitter. We honestly, Twitter is not a big thing for us as much as it used to be. We don't really find that there's a lot of Twitter love, but we do appreciate Twitter for what it is. So, you know, follow us on Twitter. We same thing with the Facebook group, instantly uploads. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel for those who are watching us on YouTube or will watch us on YouTube. You know that we have, oh man, we have hundreds of minutes at this point. Hundreds upon hundreds of minutes of new programming. That's my best friend calling. It must be time to get off the video. He interrupted yesterday's video. But we have hundreds upon hundreds of minutes, thousands of seconds of programming. Now brought to you on no app, just on the YouTube app. So if you have the YouTube app, check out our thing. And the only 2 questions remaining is, 1, how can we help you? Email us at creatorswrittensins.com and tell us how we can. And finally, are you one of us? So if you're a fan, if you love new content, if you want to change the world and show Marvel and DC that it's time to stop the reboot culture and come up with new creative ideas and give indie creators a chance to bring new worlds to life, become one of us. Become the growing population. We're so close to 18,000 members just on our Written Sins site itself. Subscribe. If you add in the 2,000 between the group and the page, over 2,000 at this point, thank you very much. And if you add in the Twitter followers, thousands on there, we are almost at 25,000 followers. For every time we post something, you have the opportunity to do 25,000 people hitting it. That's not without sharing. Now, once we share it, it goes more viral. People see it. People get in their eyes. And even if they don't click the link, they see the name. So that is what Written Sins is. So aren't you one of us already? And if you are one of us, shouldn't you just subscribe? All right, guys, that has been the show this week. I have no idea how long it's gone on, but I know it's gone too long, so my back's killing me, my voice is killing me, and I'm starting to sound like a growly bat in Gotham. I appreciate everyone who showed up for the show. Please make sure to spend at least $1 on a Kickstarter this week. Make someone's dreams come true. Understand backing a Kickstarter makes dreams come true. Be someone's hero. Remember we talked about that? quick way to be someone's hero? It's to do that. So go out there. You know, I'm going to channel my Enzo right now, and I'm going to tell you, go back to Kickstarter. You know, make a dream come true. Forget lottery, which you're going to lose. Here you win. All right, guys. I will talk to you all later. Thank you for joining the program. I appreciate all the support. Seriously, you guys are awesome. Thank you, sinners, fans, and creators of indie comics and written sins.